Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Scottish Falcons HQ. Be you Clydeside, Stateside or worldwide, welcome back to Season 2 of the Scottish Falcons show. And it's a bit of a double celebration tonight, not just for ourselves, but also for anyone involved in the Atlanta sports kind of world, shall we say, because we want to take the first opportunity to wish you a very happy 404 day. So however you're spending it, if you're not listening to us, if you're out partying, have an extra one for your boys, or an extra two, because we're also bringing in episode 50 tonight. So it's been a crazy adventure so far, and we're only just getting started. But before we get into anything, it's going to be my pleasure, as always, to introduce my co-host with the most, the dynamo through which this machine runs, and the original Scottish Falcon himself, Des Stevenson. And Des, it's been an interesting few weeks. Haters going to hate, but we keep on rolling all the same. So how's all at your end, my brother?
Yeah, doing great. I've got the Atlanta Braves hat on. We're knocking it out the park now, 6-2, mate. We're playing against, I think, early morning the Arizona Diamondbacks, so it feels great. Last year, and I know we're talking about Falcons, but we need to give a wee bit of time to the Braves. Last year was just a travesty. I think we won. We're 6-2, and I think it was like 20 games last year before we had our sixth win. It was that bad. It was just a travesty. But you're seeing the team's just coming out. We won last night. It all went down to the last inning. And Ozzy Albies and Matt Olson steps up, batters, home runs, and it was like crazy. It was like, I think because it's in Arizona, it starts for me like 6 a.m. So yeah, I'm not going to wait for that. But I did watch the highlights and it was fantastic. So
I think it's this is one of the times we can count our small mercies that we chose to rep teams on the East Coast. Because if it was the West, we'd be kind of watching the next day. We'd be a day behind. It's bad enough when you're only 5 hours, but I can only imagine what it'd be supporting a West Coast team in Scotland. But before we get started, a shout out to the Braves and also the Hawks, because they're doing some good business as well in the run up to the playoffs, which you love to hear as well. So it's a great time all around to be an Atlanta sports fan. And shout out to the OGs as well, our brother in feathers, and I love that comment. I'm going to actually steal that one. Our Celtic brethren, Floyd Donnelly, and another one of the OGs as well down in the chat there with the red and blacks is our Tony Hall there as well. So it's good to see you boys as always. As I say, with it being 404 day, I think the frivolities may keep tonight's show a little bit more intimate, but there ain't nothing wrong with that. So as I say, if you've got any questions or comments along the way, feel free, we love to hear it. But let's start as we mean to go on then with a little bit of staff news. So I think I'm going to give you my thoughts first off. I mean, this is a power team that we're putting together here in terms of the staff and the ethos going into the draft and going into the 2026 season. I mean, just look at those guys. It's more than I could have asked going into the off season. And now we've went and made another great move by bringing in Jeff Scott to be assistant general manager. Now the man's just finished 5 very successful years in Philadelphia. Obviously a Lombardi trophy to boot, so all good things. But as I say, I could go on a little bit, but I'm going to let you take over, Des, and let me hear your thoughts, because I feel like staff-wise we're in such a good position, and a lot of the so-called experts or even some execs are saying I don't understand where the Falcons are going in terms of player and personnel, but I mean, you make it make sense, because I sure can't.
Mate, see, to be honest, I've never had a season where you actually can see what's happening. You effectively with the signings, the free agent signings, a lot of them are like 1-year deals, prove-it deals. You can see what they're effectively working on for 2027 with a lot of cap space. He obviously knows, Ian Cunningham knows he's not got a lot of draft picks this year, but there's not anything that I've seen that I've thought, oh, that's not good. And to be honest, if you're going to hire an assistant general manager, you go to Philadelphia Eagles. He's been there 5 years. I think he was he's coming in to deal with pro personnel. So again, he'll be looking around the NFL and bringing in and effectively targeting players that he thinks are going to make the team better. So from my point of view, if you want to know how to win the Super Bowl, or you want to know how to always get into the playoffs, then you go to a winning team. Was probably the biggest concern I had with Stefanski being brought in, because obviously the issue in the last few years with the Browns. But from again, another thing to look at it as well, he's a minority candidate. So again, if he a few years' time goes on to become a general manager, which I think is probably the plan that's been put in place by Ian Cunningham and Matt Ryan, then we get picks out it. So, I mean, it just, everything that I can see that's happening, it makes sense. There's nothing that I've looked at that I've thought, but I would say maybe the 2-year deal with Jahan Dotson was maybe a bit of a surprise. But again, I'm just a layman, you know what I mean? I'll leave that to the specialists, you know what I mean? And again, as you say about the team, you've got Matt Ryan, who's been in the league for 14 years. You know what I mean? He effectively he effectively ran the offense when he was in the huddle, and he was a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. So he's a leader. You've then got Ian Cunningham, who came from the Eagles, the Browns, and the Baltimore Ravens?
Baltimore, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Baltimore Ravens, which again, winning culture. We then go to the Eagles and we bring in Jeff Scott. So, I mean, we're ticking the right boxes. I mean, from the way I look at it is that, again, if you're wanting to build that winning culture, then you go and get people that have been in that winning culture. One thing I would say about Ian Cunningham, that the difference in the last few years with the Chicago Bears has been immense, but you couldn't really class the Chicago Bears as being a winning culture. Again, maybe how I've seen quite a few people questioning the Ian Cunningham signing. But again, when you look at the history with the Eagles and with the Baltimore Ravens, it all just seems to make sense. And you can start to see what Matt Ryan wants out of this team, what Ian Cunningham wants out of this team, what Kevin Stefanski wants out of this team. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's not anything that I've thought, I don't like that. I think that's a bad few players that have walked away. You know what I mean? That I've thought, like Caden Ellis, I thought, well, if we could have done a deal with him, but I understand with his age, he was getting to an age as a linebacker where injuries start to happen, and you're not going to sign him to a massive big contract and then take the hit when he gets down injured. So yeah, I'm optimistic. I always am optimistic when it comes to this time of the year. For me, there's no point questioning the choices that's happening now. You only question them when we get into the training camp, when we get actually into the season, and we see how it all pans out. But from my point of view, I'm happily optimistic in everything that's been going on.
Yep, I would agree with you. And even in the realistic parts of your assessment there too, brother, because the two things for me, I'll throw Algier into the mix. There was a couple of guys who went out where I'm like, yeah, okay, in an ideal world, I would have retained them. But with that being said, the Jahan Dotson was the big shock for me, because shout out to our brother Emmanuel. He has done his due diligence on this one, and he has the lowest separation rate in the entire league. Not next to last, not near the bottom. He was the last place receiver in terms of separation. So a 2-year deal instead of him being one of the prove it guys is a little bit surprising, as you say. But I mean, Jahan Dotson's got the ability to get it done. I feel like it was a bit of an off year for him. So maybe their loss is our gain in that respect. So I'm interested to see definitely what he can do. And I feel like, as I say, even before we put pen to paper, he was one of the guys that I said he's not coming in with. He's not one of these big star guys where you're going to go, I need him on my team. But in the right scheme, he can definitely be effective. And I think I do like it. And as I say, with everything in terms of the players and the coaching and the staffing hires that we've had, we've given ourselves enough of a back door to get out if things go south as well. So I feel like in a lot of cases it's win-win. Even if it's not this year, then obviously we've got some wiggle room, so to speak. But that's kind of how I feel about it. But I don't, as I say, I'm not one to agree with the naysayers. I don't understand why they don't understand. I feel like the ethos of, I mean, Ian Cunningham's own words, raising the floor, which is, I feel like what we've done. We've built depth, we've built versatility, because a lot of these guys are flexible in terms of the roles they can play as well. So yeah, I feel like it's all good. It's all good stuff as well. And speaking, sorry, this.
I mean, how many times did we say last year when we were coming into the start of the season, we all said that the depth wasn't there. The depth just wasn't there, and if we had a few injuries, then we were going to have issues, and that's what happened. You know, I mean, Jahan Dotson, the one. I mean, from you have to look at this from a coaching point of view. You don't know what he's getting asked to do. You know what I mean? So effectively, he might not have been the guy that's getting constantly targeted, and then effectively, if the quarterback isn't seeing his man, he just shows it to him. So you just don't know about the scheme, about what the coaches are asking them to do, about maybe potential injuries. Again, if you're a speed wide receiver and you've got a niggling injury, which is a possibility, you'll fight through it. So again, from my point of view, there's no point questioning it until you see it in real time. And again, if we're happy that Terry Fontenot went, and we're happy that Raheem Morris has went, you know what I mean, and we're happy that Matt Ryan is now president of football, we need to give them time and stop questioning what is happening. What I would say is that tweet that I seen about one general manager has said that he cannot understand what the Falcons are trying to do. Well, that's not his job. That's not his. A, it's clickbait, and it's probably absolutely garbage. And B, that guy doesn't need to understand what the Atlanta Falcons are doing, because he's not in the Atlanta Falcons. So if he wants to, if he wants to worry about his own team, please, and effectively, but see, to be honest, I'm taking that with a pinch of salt. Whatever you say, Ian Cunningham was. If there was more general manager openings, he would have been the one at the top. You know what I mean? For most teams. So he's well regarded in the league. For some guy to tweet that, it's just clickbait. You know, it's absolute clickbait. And I for one, I'm not getting suckered in with it.
I agree. I feel like, and so much as I'm going to throw out a wee Scottish vernacular for you tonight again. Sports and culture show, don't you forget it. But I feel like they need to wind their neck in a little bit. It's, as I said in the group chat as well, there's a huge difference between I can't make sense of and doesn't make sense. But at the same time, you focus on your team and let us cook with ours. That's just kind of how I break it down as well, Des. So I couldn't agree more with you. And speaking about breaking things down and things that may be divisive, did you catch a look at those new uniforms?
Yes.
I mean, this is something. Yeah.
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
On you go. Sorry.
No, I can't.
No, I was just going to say it's again something that's going to.
Sorry,
It's going to split the audience. That's all I was going to say. Sorry, on you go.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a bit confused by the many people that are really unhappy with it. I mean, when I started supporting the Falcons, it was the red top. We effectively then get to 2019 and the atrocious gradient ones that came out were just horrendous. And
yeah,
for me, I know a lot of people were looking for more throwback and they wanted the red helmet, which we've got. We've still got the throwback. From my point of view, there's no point having a throwback and then having your main uniform as a throwback, as in effectively the red helmet. I will say one thing. I looked at it and I could understand why a lot of people were saying that it was very bland. But if you go back and look at the last red jerseys we had, the one bit I didn't like was the wee black and red, and the wee black, red, and white here. It just looked as if somebody had overthought it. When you then look at our new jerseys and it's just plain red, it's just, mate, it's classic. I'm a fan, and I don't understand the hate. What I would say is we've got enough problems in the last 7 or 8 years without worrying about uniforms.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like,
so
I feel like the biggest one, and I'm going to flash that. I'm sitting here looking at them now, but I'm going to bring up the photo just to kind of the photos of the uniforms just to kind of exercise my point here. But I mean, there you go. I agree that although it's minimalist, I like a lot of what's going on with the red and the white. So fresh and so clean, so to speak. And I like the one with the black pants. I like the stripe, the way they've kind of brought back the classic stripe. The throwback I've always loved with the red helmet, but what bugs me, and it's something that's kind of, as I say, there was a poll done through the social media, and it seems quite even as to what the favourite uniforms are. But the drawback for me is people are saying that it's the white one with the black pants that doesn't compute, and I'm like, well, why doesn't it compute? Literally, we had the same jersey last year, except the numbers were black, not red.
Yeah.
So I feel like some Atlanta Falcons fans just want to complain. At the end of the day, I'm going to wear it because it's my team and it looks bloody nice, in my opinion. Like, I'm going to give them a B minus. Like, yeah, there are little details and things that were missing, but they're pretty solid. I like them. I think there's a lot to like.
The thing I laughed at was when I seen a tweet from somebody saying this just looks like the Houston Texans uniform, and I had to remind them that effectively that classic look goes back to before there was Houston Texans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So effectively, who was copying whose uniform? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I say, well, we've got enough issues in Atlanta without worrying about the uniform. I love it. I like it's a classic look. You looked at the reaction when AJ Terrell, Drake London, Michael Walker, and Bijan all seen it. And you seen Drake London after looking at it, he came back round. He was like, "Yeah, I just love the red." When you see it, it's not like, "Oh wow, that is out of this world." But when you then look at it and just see the simplicity, and you then keep looking at it, it's like, "Aye, that's nice. That's a good jersey." And
yeah,
it is the guys that designed it and the uniform guy was talking. He said 35 out of the last 60 seasons, it's been a main red uniform, effectively red, and then you get your offset, your white. It's simple, it's classy, and it's not overthinking. You know what I mean? So I'm a big fan. I'm effectively in. The big issue I've got with uniforms isn't the uniforms, it's the way they're put together for me. Too many. So effectively, take all if it's the stickers that you've got, you take all them off and it's a red t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And it only then becomes an Atlanta Falcons top once you actually put these stickers on. I've already been caught out with that with Fanatics when I bought the Bijan Robinson top right after he get drafted. He wasn't even available in the shop, and I then customized it, done Robinson number 7, and well, so he came out, Robinson number 7, and ordered it, and it came in with a white Atlanta instead of the red Atlanta. So
that's right. Yeah.
And the biggest issue as well is the stitch isn't available in Europe. So the stitch top with embroidery, it's only available in America, and it's not available until May. So, and it's 160 quid. It's like 200, and all in all, it's about $240 to get it here with VAT and all our sales taxes. Which listen, I'll probably buy it because I want the stitch. But I understand there's a lot of people out there that couldn't pay that. So if you're going to get that, you're better getting it the first year it comes out rather than the third or the fourth year when you're only going to have it for a season or not. It's in my head that I go for Drake London this time because I've had Bijan's, but again I'll decide. I did see a funny tweet when somebody put out the Tua jersey, and somebody put whoever orders this is a complete lunatic. And I mean, you just never know the future, mate. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's it. Don't self-harm. Don't cut yourself or burn yourself. Just go online and buy a nice Tua jersey. That's all the suffering you need.
I'll literally tell you a quick story about something before the show. Now, obviously, I've lost a bit of weight. I went into my cupboard and I found a T-shirt that it was a gift. It was a gift from my last business from some of my employees. And I tried it on and it finally fits me. And it was the Desmond Ridder number 4 jersey, not even his number 9 jersey. It was effectively the number 4 jersey. So I didn't pay for it. It was a gift, but you never ever know. You know what I mean? He could have been the greatest quarterback that Atlanta ever had, but obviously he wasn't. You know what I mean? So, so you never ever know. And again, the other thing that was confusing is somebody came out and said that the James Pierce Jr. Jersey isn't available. Well, with the current circumstances, who out there is want to buy James Pierce Jr. uniform?
I think there might be a small niche market for it. I think it might be on some website, next to the O.J. Simpson Buffalo jerseys or the. But no, I think it's crazy. As I say, if they can find something to complain about, they will.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't want him back in black and red at all. Never mind anytime soon. He needs to go and get the help that he needs to get to be a better human being, never mind football player, you know what I mean? So
see, from my point of view, mate, until all the information comes out, there's no point discussing it. I'm going to discuss something from the UK. I mean, you obviously remember the nurse that was convicted, that Lucy Letby. Was convicted here of literally killing 12 patients or something. She went to prison. Now it's coming out that was 10, 12 years ago. Now she was considered like the nurse from hell, a devil, and all. Now it's coming out that she maybe not have done it. You know what I mean? So it's just from my point of view, when it's rumours, I just don't discuss it. There's no point discussing it until all the facts come out. I do know that obviously the hitting the police officer with a car has been took off, so you just don't know. As I say, there's no point commenting on it. You just don't. There's only two people know the full story, and that's James Pearce Jr. And his ex-girlfriend. So out with that. There's no point even discussing what's going to happen if he does come back. Whatever. We'll deal with it when it happens, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, can I cross that bridge when we come to it? We're best just kind of leaving what needs to be done to who needs to deal with it, I suppose. But that is a good point when you're talking about sort of letting the facts speak for themselves and letting everything else fall by the wayside. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I feel I owe you all an apology. And I have in the lyrics of Mr. Dave Grohl, I got another confession to make, because I was cut out with a little bit of an April Fool's prank. It wasn't actually on April the 1st, but nevertheless, I do feel a bit of a fool because I did see this. Bijan Robinson has been extended by the Atlanta Falcons, becoming the highest paid running back in the league on a 4-year, $92 million contract with $60 million guaranteed. Now, I've since found out that is bogus, but with that being said, I did also see that, obviously, 4 days ago, the priority coming in after the draft, pay Bijan, pay Drake London. But I did, as I say, Des gave me the idea to kind of stick it back to them and use it for our own wicked ends. So, I mean, how does that sound? I mean, he's worthy of being the highest paid back in football, but between 15 and 23 million a year. How would you feel about that contract if that were to be on the table?
Yeah, I mean, that's how when we were discussing this, I said, listen, just put it in, because if that was the contract that came out, I'd be happy with that. You know what I mean? Effectively, what people forget is that it was the Atlanta Falcons drafting him at number 8 that reset the running back market. It literally changed effectively overnight. Before that, now you're seeing running backs going at number 5 to the Raiders. I can't remember the guy's name last year.
Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah. So, and we nobody was even blinking an eye with that. When we took Bijan Robinson, the discussion was it was too early to take a running back. And do you remember Rich Eisen's reaction when they took him? Oh, they've done it. They've went for it. You know what I mean? They've took a running back. So, but for me, forget that he's the running back. He's effectively an offensive weapon, mate. And for me, if that's what you're having to pay, you have to pay it. It's for me, when you look at how much Kirk Cousins walked away with from the Atlanta Falcons in the 2 seasons he was here, Bijan Robinson deserves every penny he gets, and probably more than what he's going to get. And effectively, if it was literally 60 million guaranteed, he's guaranteed 15 million a year. If it's a 23 million a year contract, absolutely. I guarantee you, mate, this guy will be in when the new NFL top 100 comes out. There's going to be riots if he isn't in the top 10 and possibly the top 5. The guy is a phenom. So
yeah.
Me, he gets whatever he gets. Because I guarantee you, mate, if we don't pay it, there's somebody out there that's going to pay $1 million plus on top of it we're questioning. So for me, it's the reason why I'm happy with everything that's happened in free agency with a lot of these 1-year deals, because next year we're going to have to decide, well, maybe this year, but Drake London's going to get a new contract. You know what I mean? As you discussed, Ian Cunningham has already come out and said after the draft, it's top of my mind. You know what I mean? So again, the way everything's happening, he's probably going to walk out with a probably 120 million 4-year contract, he's probably going to be on about he's probably going to be on about 30 million a year, and he'll deserve it. So when you look at him and Bijan Robinson, they're going to be the main weapons in our offense. You know what I mean? So you pay them, and you draft well, and you build through the draft, and you bring weapons around them. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
I'm very much the same mind as you. He's worth every penny and then some. I feel like he's genuinely the best chance we have possibly ever had of having a 2,000-yard rusher in Atlanta. So that doesn't come along too often. And for all of those who want to go with recency bias when you're talking about why a running back shouldn't be selected in the top 10, not only has it just happened with Ashton Genie, it's going to happen again in the draft coming up with Jeremiah Love. Watch him go in the top 8, I guarantee you. And then what are you going to be saying? It's happened again? Or our team's getting needed? No. If a running back is worth that premium, you will know. Bijan Robinson is worth that premium. And he's showed it, as I say, every year since he came in to the team. So, pay the man what he deserves. That's my opinion as well. And the same for Drake London when that rolls around.
I think we're doing him a disservice by calling him a running back, mate. He's not a running back. He's a receiver as well. You know what I mean? So, for me, if we had took him, literally just take him away from, say we decided to go somewhere else when we drafted him. I mean, that offense is nothing like what it would have been. And there was times when it was bad, but I watched a video the day, and it was Kevin Stefanski talking about the Vic Fangio scheme. I can't remember what they call it, but he was talking about having to change schemes because of this Vic Fangio scheme, that the defense. And the guy asked him, well, what do you do to get around that? And he said, well, it's more about developing the run game, you know what I mean, and effectively putting people out towards the edge and all that kind of stuff. It goes over my head, some of the stuff, but effectively, what I would say is that be under no illusion that this offense in 2026 season will be priority is going to be through the run game. It's Kevin Stefanski isn't even hiding the fact, you know what I mean. But what I would say is that I think with his scheme, there's going to be a lot of movement. There's going to be a lot of different looks as well. So from my point of view, Bijan is the most important player in this team, and obviously we brought in Brian Robinson, which is again is going to be a great addition. So effectively, Ian Cunningham has sat down with Kevin Stefanski, and they've concentrated on the bringing people in for the run game. Why would you then allow Bijan Robinson to walk right out the door? I would say that effectively there's only a few players that if we let them walk, I would be disgusted, and that's Drake London's one of them. And Chris Lindstrom and Bijan Robinson, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Jesse Bates a third. If we traded him and got a third or a second round pick, so be it. I think there's a possibility it might happen. But at the end of the day, these guys have just walked through the door. Let them cook, leave them be, and then we can question them at the end of the season.
As you say, even if it pertains to letting Jesse go, do I want Bates to be on the trade block? Not particularly, but do I feel like the secondary's stacked enough to where we could? Yeah, I feel like we're already in that position. So, I mean, it's a good time to kind of play around with some ideas, but we need to let the guys cook, as you say, Des, and see what comes of it. But I mean, let's talk about the roster, and it's a good kind of place to segue while we're talking about running backs, because as you say, I'm going to talk mainly about the five latest ones, but we will talk a little bit more in general about the full class in just a little bit. But as Des says there, we've brought in Brian Robinson Jr. So good luck to the fantasy fans on that one, because now you don't just have two B Robinsons, but they both say ATL.
Yeah.
And then also shoring up with a little bit of depth as well with Tyler Goodson from the Colts as well. So talking about those two, I feel like Brian Robinson's a great runner. He's also a better receiver pound for pound than Tyler Algier is. So you're getting more of a versatile offensive weapon, more in the vein of what Bijan will give you. So those two are going to be a great 1-2 punch. Tyler's more of a power runner again, but he's not quite as strong as Algier, so you're giving up a little bit of that sort of hard-nosed style for a little bit of versatility and more options in your pass game. Particularly if two is rolling out, you can then use either or both Robinsons, as you say. We could be quite a flexible unit as well this year. And hopefully it doesn't come to this, but we've even got Tua's backup as well, because, as I say, we've brought in quarterback Trevor Siemian as well. He's no stranger. He's been around the league for longer than a minute. And then we've also done a little bit of diligence on defence by officially signing cornerback Darnay Holmes, and also a returning hero for sake of special teams, which is something that's been a big point of discussion all the way through last season. Des, this is what I'm talking about having players who are known for their efficacy as it pertains to special teams. So D'Angelo Malone back as well. So talking about that, I mean, I feel like that's... I could talk about the class more in general, which I will do, but those five guys, I mean, I like where we're going running back wise. As I say, versatile, a lot of different things, but it doesn't mean that running backs off the table completely in the draft either, because as we'll get into in a little bit, we've also just had an elite prospect at that running back position come and visit. So it's good to do your due diligence, even in positions where you think you have those guys in place, but it just goes to show you that we may have more than 5 picks this year. I feel like they know where their floor is now. They've managed to bring that up to an acceptable level, and now it's about, right, okay, we need to decide whether we're going to compete now or just kind of ease our way into something bigger maybe next year or something like that. And I feel like they know in themselves that they're ready to compete now. And that's why I said when it comes to some of the guys we'll get into later for targets and things like that, they just need to be good enough to get the job done. We know where our stars are. We just need the guys that can kind of complement that. So that's kind of how I feel about it. But where's the standouts there for you? I mean, obviously, I know you like the B-Rob squared idea. That was something we were teasing before we got him. But I mean, for the value too, I mean, you can't complain, can you?
I mean, from my point of view, I mean, like you can look at like Austin Hooper, 1 year, 3.25 million. You know what I mean? We drafted him in, I think it was 2016. So effectively, he's a competent, he's a pro bowler. You know what I mean? Pro bowler tight end. You know what I mean? So again, great. You've got Lamadi Zaccheaus as well at wide receiver. We know what he can do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of returns. I put out a tweet saying that there was a lot of, like, as you mentioned as well, that Tyler Goodson, he's a Georgia native. So there is tend to be a lot of Georgia, Alabama players and effectively players that are from Georgia as well. So what I think people need to understand is that effectively Ian Cunningham doesn't really know what Kevin Stefanski will do with his scheme. It's all great looking back on tape and speaking to Kevin Stefanski and saying what he wants, but until you're actually watching it in a day-to-day and watching the actual live games, it's going to be hard for him to bring in specific players that are going to be perfect in that scheme. that's how there's been a lot of one-year options. There's been a lot of one-year contracts. I remember back to when Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith came in, and it was all about like a rebuild and all that. And they remember they came out and said, Arthur Smith said that would be disrespectful to the players that we brought in. I can hardly remember who the players were. You know what I mean? That would be disrespectful to the players we brought in to say it's a rebuild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ian Cunningham's not hiding the fact. We'll bring you in for a year's contract. Prove it that you deserve better, and if not, then we move on. It's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a good strategy. We don't want to have somebody that's just walked through the door, doesn't know what his head coach specifically wants in a player. You know what I mean? They're effectively they only met a month ago, so again, to get that knowledge in just a month is going to be impossible, considering you're looking at free agency, you're trying to get ready for the draft, all that kind of stuff. So if he went out then and then started signing these big contract free agents to massive big monies over 2 years and 3 years, we'd probably be questioning that and saying, well, we really don't know what this Kevin Stefanski Atlanta Falcons team is going to be like. We don't even know who the QB is going to be this year, rather never mind the QB we're going to have for next year. So effectively keeping your money in your mitt is definitely the best way forward for next year. If that means it's a transitional year, then so be it. So be it. You know what I mean?
But with that being said, I think it would be premature to put the label of a failed season or anything like that, because although I do need to caveat it, you can ignore the first part of the pop-up there because it's not 13. I counted them out myself and it's now 19. But this is the up-to-date list of signings that we've got there. So, as you say, quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Siemian. Running backs, Brian Robinson Jr., Tyler Goodson. Wide receivers, Jahan Dotson and all Amadeus Zacchaeus. Austin Hooper at tight end. And offensive centre, Corey Levin. Then you've got Deshaun Hand and Chris Williams, defensive tackles. Laquelle London as well coming back. Then you've got Cam Thomas, Samson Ebukam off the defensive edge. Aziz Ojulari, Channing Tindall, and Christian Harris. And then, of course, as I say, you brought in Darnay Holmes. And you add into that shoring up the special teams as well, which was very important. We're bringing in Nick Folk and Jake Bailey as well there. So, as I say, you can't complain because I think I've listed just about, with the exception of tackle, every position in football just about. So, I feel like, as I say, depth competition, this is what you want to see heading into that kind of training camp draft sort of cycle. And I mean, we've not even seen the rookies yet. So it's an interesting time, but I'm going to be that guy and throw just a couple more sort of spanners in the works. Per another friend of the channel and someone else who's going to be coming on very, very soon, hopefully, Scott Karasik. He was talking about there being 19 roster spots remaining currently, and what were we going to do with them. So before we get into the sort of draft side of things, I do have two guys that I like the idea of. Again, it would depend on money. I think one's a little bit more of a cheaper option than the other, but I'll give you one for each line. Start on the defensive line first, and the guy that I like is AJ Epinesa, edge from the Buffalo Bills. Now, he's been in Buffalo for the last 4 years, and he's accumulated 6 interceptions, and I think it's 24 and a half sacks. The 6 picks is the interesting thing, considering the dude is 6'6", 270. So he's a big boy to be getting in the way of some of those passes. But I think, as I say, if you want to do defensive line by committee, that would be a great guy to kind of throw into that mix. And then also, I love versatile guys, tackle guard, edge, linebacker, all that kind of flex. And so the other guy, I think I may have mentioned him on the show before, that I like is Daniel Fatalele from the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason I like this dude is simple. as I say, he's tackle guard flexible, but more than that, he's just a mountain of a man. He's listed at 6'8". I think he's closer to 6'9", and I think he's about 370, 380. So just a huge guy. As I say, former Minnesota Golden Gopher there, but there's not much you can do when a dude that size gets his hands on you. So, I mean, that's my two options. But, I mean, looking at the free agency list of who's still available, I know you're going to have some people calling out Joey Bosa and things like that. But, I mean, for the money that we have you got any more options for us right now, Des, in terms of free agency at least?
I really haven't looked at it, mate, to be honest. I think I've been too busy watching all the players we've been signing. So the issue you've got is that effectively, apart from like maybe the Joey Bosa's, the players that haven't been signed yet in free agency, they've not been signed for a specific reason. You know what I mean? Either their contract, they're looking for a bigger contract or anything like that. I think when you look at what Ian Cunningham has done in the signings that he's brought in, as you said earlier on, he's brought up the floor. I think he's similar to the way Terry Fontenot was, which is if he's trying to fill all his needs in free agency, so that in the draft he can then just take best player available. And again, that's effectively, he's already mentioned this in that interview that you don't go for need, you always go for the best player available. So for me, as I say, I think it's a transitional year. We're not going to get big contracts in 2 or 3 year contracts. That's going to put quite a few guys off that are coming here. Obviously, you've got not a first year head coach, but first year in the Atlanta head coach. You've got a full new coaching staff. You've got a full new front office. So if you're out there and you're a free agency and you want a wee bit of stability, Atlanta's not really going to be there for you. You know what I mean? And there will be players out there that will be sitting back and saying, start of the season, training camp kicks in, I'm better holding off. Somebody has an injury and I get a couple of million more than what I would in free agency. So effectively, the ones that haven't been signed, I'm pretty sure they're not in a hurry to sign with anybody. So they'll sit back and watch and see what develops.
Yeah, and I feel like, as you say, in a lot of cases there are reasons why, and you say reason number one would be money, and I feel like a lot of people are saying, why has Juwan Jennings, the wide receiver out of San Fran, not been signed yet? And it's like, because he's priced himself out of the process so far. You're not quite at a 20-25 million a year level, mate, and that's okay, but just know your worth, and I feel like he's going to have to look at this again before a team will take a chance on him. And I feel like he's not the only one. And I'm, as I say, I'm not against anyone going and chasing that bag, but it has to make sense as well as a business at the end of the day. But you did say as well that. Sorry.
What I would say, well, is the way this roster just now is going to be 100 times different once we hit training camp, once we hit the start of the season. There'll always be changeovers and changes happening. That's how effectively with Jeff Scott getting brought in as the assistant general manager. If his job is pro personnel, then let him effectively look around the NFL, find out what is of interest there. The fact that he's came for the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a lot of issues coming out of Philadelphia at the moment with the Jalen Hurts situation and everything you're hearing from that. So it doesn't sound as if if everybody there's happy. You know what I mean? Again, it might be speculation, but if you're Jeff Scott and you know the contract situations of all these players, you'd want to get your feet under the table, get yourself settled in, and then you start looking around. As I said, there's no reason to rush anything just now. We've not even had the draft yet. We're what 3 months away from training camp. You know what I mean? There's plenty of time. But again, that just tends to be some fans that just want a lot. And to be honest, as you said, 19 signings. So that I can't remember ever being in a position where this early on we've had 19 signings. So
no, it's quite crazy to think like how much we've moved in so short a space of time. But and as I say again, it comes back to the value. They've come in and they've just said, no, we want to get the job done, and this is what's making me think that they want to be a win now team. Yeah, a lot of these could be viewed as just depth guys because they're 1 year prove it deals and this and that, but by, as we say, raising the floor, they've made themselves instantly more competitive. You can't look at that team against what they've got in New Orleans, what they've got in Carolina, what they've got in Tampa Bay. You can't tell me that with the guys that we've brought in, we're not going to be competitive in the South next season. I refuse to believe that.
I mean, you only have to. I hate the fact that effectively we brought in Tua. We're paying him $1.3 million. Now, I don't even think it's controversial. Tua had a bad season last year, and effectively the year before, I was surprised that Mike McDaniels got to the end of not this season, last season, because there was so much. It looked like the mental asylum had literally the crazy people had took over the mental asylum. It was just, you see them in interviews. Mike McDaniels just didn't look a happy guy, and effectively the last couple of years Tua he's not done well, but I will say something. Tua on his day, if you take him what he was in 23 and 24 possibly, Tua's a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Far better. So effectively, we're at a point where we've got a player that's been brought in that I think potentially will start the season, who is better than what we've had since Matt Ryan walked out the door.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean as well. The one drawback to us signing is the injury history, and that's another reason why I'm liking the Daniel Faalele signing, because look at it this way: Jake Matthews is 6'5.5" and 318. Then you've got Caleb McGarry; he's about 6'7.5" and about 325. Then you've got an inside man. You know how big Daniel Faalele is. If you want to keep be vertical, build the trenches. And I feel like it's something that they've been trying their best to do through this off-season process. This staff, especially bringing Callahan in, we're put ourselves, because, as I said to Magnus in the group chat, they say that offense wins games, defense wins championships. The trenches will build you. The trenches will be the beginnings of a dynasty if you can get things done on the front seven. So I just feel like that's kind of where I'm at with it as well. But I mean, it doesn't just come down to free agency, as you say. It's also going to be what happens with these guys that are coming in ahead of the draft, and if any of these guys kind of appeal to us. So what I've done is I've brought the list up. It's quite a short list. It's not the full list of top 30 visits, but it's just the four most recent here. So just popping that up now for us. And so here we are. So we've got Carver Willis, offensive lineman out of the University of Washington. Marlon Klein, tight end from the Michigan Wolverines. Then you've got offensive tackle Travis Burke out of Memphis, who is someone who I like a lot, and probably the guy who kind of heads that group for me right now, even regardless of the signings, would be Mike Washington Jr. explosive running back from the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. And as I say, that's another guy who's deceptively shifty for the size that he is. I think he's listed at 6'1", 223. So that's something you would read and go, okay, he's a power back that can slash. He's got great hands and he's got more speed than his frame would suggest. So I'm not mad about, as I say, entertaining these guys and seeing what happens. I don't know, obviously, because we've got Brian Robinson, if we go this way in the draft. But as I say, the same with Marlon Klein as well. There's no reason, even if we are stacked and kind of doing a little bit of homework, so to speak. But I mean, I'm not going to turn them down if he wants to come and play in the A. Are you?
Yeah, I mean that again. The issue you've got with the draft is if it is going to be best player available, then it's going to be impossible to decide who we're going to sign. So,
yeah,
I mean, what I would say is that effectively, I would look at the as Ian Cunningham said, and if you look at what not just Chicago Bears but the Philadelphia Eagles are specifically build up their O-line and their D-line through the draft. So they've been famous for doing that. So effectively, when you look at some of the names, you're looking at the O-line and the D-line, you know what I mean? So I think that's where they're going to go. I mean, I've got a whole list. So effectively, you've got offensive line, you've got Caden Proctor out of Alabama. Travis Burke out of Memphis, offensive tackle. Markel Bell out of Miami. Chase Bisontis out of Texas A&M. And James Brockermeyer out of Miami. Defensive products, you've got edge Caleb Banks out of Florida. And he's saying he's often mocked to Atlanta at number 48. You've got Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. Ontario Thompson, D-tackle out of Washington. You've got Romello Height, Texas Tech defensive end, and Tyree West, Tennessee defensive end. And then you've got quite a few linebackers as well. So from you have to go with what Ian Cunningham says, and he says he's going to you start in the trenches. You know what I mean? So I'm assuming that is effectively the first protocol for Terry Fontenot was offense, and then literally the first three drafts was all offense. Then he changed to defense. I'm assuming that this draft is just going to be all trench guys. So, but again, that depends what players fall. Because I've seen as well that obviously I've mentioned a few times Casey Concepcione has had a visit as well. So again, I think wide receiver wise, he would be a phenomenal draft pick from my point of view. I think what Atlanta also have to do is they need to obviously they're in a position where they're not picking to 48, so. They're effectively looking at potential. So they're looking at prospects that could be number one, it could be first rounds, but maybe with issues with injuries or maybe some not off the field issues, but maybe consistency that they're maybe looking for players that they think are going to fall in the draft. Players that effectively could be picked at number one in the first round, but they're hoping slide like the KC Concepcione and everything. So Ian Cunningham and the scouts have to be a wee bit more fly this year because they don't have that first round pick. So they have to work around that. Hence the reason. And again, I would say that I don't think I've ever seen coming into a draft season like some many visits. You know what I mean? You've seen them going to the Georgia Pro Day and literally they took a bus for all this. You know what I mean? So again, They're trying to build that relationship with Georgia, and I'm sure they'll beat Georgia Tech as well soon, if they've not already been. So they're trying to build up these relationships. And the way to look at it as well is, effectively, if you look at the players in the NFL that are from Georgia, you know what I mean, that have literally come out of high schools in Georgia. If you literally had a team full of the Georgia players, you would have a few rings on your finger. You know what I mean? So I think Matt Ryan.
Sure.
I think Matt Ryan understands it, and he's thinking, you know what, we need to start building this relationship. I think it did move forward a wee bit with Terry Fontenot, but I think Matt Ryan is more. Let's sit down with Kirby Smart. Let's sit down with Georgia Tech. Let's find the needle in the haystacks, the players that we can bring in that are maybe going to be undrafted free agents that are going to make a difference. You know what I mean? So again, it's all about preparation. It's all about study. It's all about having the right people in the building, the scouts. You know what I mean? To effectively to do that. So.
And as you say, like, let's keep it 100. I mean, we've brought in Jeff Scott as well, so he's been in Philly the last 5 years, so he knows a thing or two about bringing in Georgia players. So, I mean, again, if you want to chop it up that way, again, it makes sense because he's been there, done that, and it's just another thing to kind of add to the whole building of the relationship. But that's a lot of great targets in a lot of different positions, and I want to kind of throw a few back at you. One that I think is more obvious than the rest, but I've tried to not go with my usual guys, so you won't hear me say Lee Hunter tonight or James Slaughter. I talk about those guys plenty, but I've got 4 ideas, 4 different positions in terms of my targets. But I was having a look at some of the AI suggestions tonight, and I like these dudes for a bunch of different reasons. So, as we say, keeping Georgia boys in Georgia, I like Kristen Miller, the D tackle out of the Georgia Bulldogs. I feel like he'd be great. To be your Caden Ellis replacement, I like Jacob Rodriguez from the Texas Tech Red Raiders, All-American linebacker. I feel like size-wise and skill set-wise, sideline to sidelines where he excels. I feel like he's a great like for Caden Ellis. I like Malik Muhammad, and I'll take any chance I can to throw up my horns. I feel like bringing him in from Texas, you're going to get a great long boundary corner with great ball skills as well. And then while you're talking about wide receiver, one of the ones who I feel like has flown under the radar a little bit is Brennan Thompson. And let me explain to you why I think he's good. If you like speed, it doesn't come much better than 4.26. So he's got speed in bunches, and he's also got reliable hands, being a former Biletnikoff Award winner there over at Texas A&M. So that's kind of some of my ideas as well. And as you say, if you're talking best player available, you're spoiled for choice in some places, aren't you? You really are.
And again, as I said earlier, it's not all about just the picks that you've got in the draft. It's all about the players that are going to fall out the draft, the undrafted free agents. You know what I mean? And again, that's probably where I think it will change. And I don't think Terry Fontenot was bad for it, but I remember the first and I remember we signed an undrafted free agent. I think it was a D tackle from a mining, like the University for Mines or something, which, and I remember he get brought into training camp, and I'm sitting scratching my head saying, what the, I mean, all these free agents, all these undrafted free agents, and we're bringing in a guy from a mining college. You know, I mean, it just didn't make any sense. And he came in and was gone again. It seemed to be that sometimes you felt with Terry Fontenot and the coaching and the staff there, they just wanted to be doing something different. They just wanted to be the guy that turned around and said, nobody's seen him, we found him. It was the same with Troy Anderson from Montana State, you know what I mean? it was a case that we found him. He's going to be phenomenal, and obviously, what could have been, obviously, he's injured, all that kind of stuff. So it seemed to be that they were trying to kind of second guess everybody else. Whereas, as you say, Jeff Scott, Philadelphia Eagles, it's like, right, okay. Georgia Bulldogs are the national champions. Where do you think we're going to be buying, drafting some of the players from? Georgia Bulldogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Year after year after year. And it's a case that if you want a player to come in and have a winning mentality, where better can you go to than Georgia Bulldogs, Alabama, Ohio State? And it just seems to be there's so many of these players that effectively are available that become undrafted free agents. And for whatever reason, we never ever get a chance to grab them. And again, that's another thing that Ian Cunningham and Matt Ryan has to bring up. They need to effectively bring up the thought process behind how Atlanta Falcons are perceived. Because at the moment, there's a lot of undrafted free agents out there that we could go after that don't want to come here, or they want to go to a bigger team or whatever. So we need to effectively bring that, as you say, bring the floor up on how we're perceived in the league, which means that we can go after the bigger free agents that won't probably look at us just now. You know what I mean? So and again, obviously getting the prospects that go undrafted that are probably well sought after and a lot of teams are after. So at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of crossing the T's, dotting the I's. As I said earlier, this team that we've got just now is not going to be the team that we start week one with. It's going to be completely different because they're always churning things around. From my point of view, if I'm Ian Cunningham just now, I'm looking at number 48 and I'm thinking to myself, I hope somebody falls that we don't really want. And then somebody comes in and gives us a couple of picks, maybe pick 55 and 82 and we move back. If there's ever a season or there's ever a year where we move back and actually try and build draft, even if it's not this year, it's next year, then so be it. You know what I mean? That's what I think he wants to do this year.
And it's a deep enough class where if you trade back, I'll give you an example from one of mine. I traded back from 48 to 56 and got 56 and I think 82. 56 was Zachariah Branch and 82 was Romello Height. So if you're going to have like payback on that level, then obviously, as I say, shoring up, getting extra picks is going to be handy as well, especially when it's a year where you can kind of go best position available, because a lot of the positions of need for us are places where there's a lot of guys. There's guys that are going to fall as well, and that's kind of why I'm going to be paying particular attention. And when you're talking about potential UDFAs, he may have done enough to even get into the top sort of bottom of day 3 now, but I shared a lad on X, and this is where the early onset senility comes back to bite me, but he's 6'3", 308. I think he's Nigerian, and he played defensive line at the HBCU showcase. And I can't remember the kid's name, but the physique on him, I was like, wow, hello. I think we can use him on our defensive line. So, I mean, even if you're talking about small school guys, like there are diamonds in the rough. And I just hope that this coaching staff is going to not push themselves to want to be those guys who bring in only small school guys just to be the school that does, or the team that does. But no, I mean, there's definitely diamonds in the rough, and this year's no exception. Some of the HBCU guys are proper studs this year.
And again, if I was Matt Ryan, what I'd be doing is I'd be saying, if we don't have a scout there just now, just for the HBCU universities, then I would bring somebody in and specifically go after the colleges. You know what I mean? You look at is it Jackson State? You know what I mean? So I don't know a lot about them. I've watched a few games, but I can't really rhyme off a lot of teams. But again, it's a case of there'll be a lot of hungry young players and the colleges, you know what I mean, that effectively you walk in with the Atlanta Falcons badge on, you know what I mean, with the Atlanta history and the black history and all that kind of stuff. I think, as I said earlier, we want to bring up our floor and how we're perceived. There's no other area where you think that a team like Atlanta Falcons are going to be perceived highly, you know what I mean? You obviously look at Deion Saunders and what he done at Jackson State, and obviously he's a former Atlanta Falcons player, and obviously speaks highly the city and everything. So if I was Matt Ryan, I'd be like, listen, let's bring in a scout just for the black colleges, you know what I mean? So and see what that takes. The other thing I was going to say as well, I was
just thinking, now his boys are in the league. Maybe if he wants to leave Colorado, offer Coach Prime the job. Would you be interested in scouting the HBCUs yourself to bring up some of these young kids that are going to come in and play for your Falcons? I think that's a good idea. I mean, I assume, like, as I say, it's pending whatever happens at Colorado and so on and so forth. But I mean, you could do worse than bringing Primetime home, for sure.
I think what people forget as well is that we've got Matt Ryan in the building, and what you'll forget is Matt Ryan's got probably all the players that played with Matt Ryan that speak highly of him, and the guy's approachable. Literally, somebody that played with Matt Ryan 10 years ago would probably make a phone call, and I guarantee Matt Ryan's answering the phone. So you've got all that. So you've got this. You can build up the strategy as well, as that all these players come from all these different colleges. You know what I mean? Effectively, I'm pretty sure if Mohamed Sanu is watching some player at the college he was at, can't remember off the top of my head where he came from, but effectively he's going to be on the phone to Matt Ryan and say, "Listen, Matt, you need to get a scout down and look at this boy." You know, I mean, he's fantastic. So Matt Ryan can open that up as well with all the former players that he played for. That's hard if you've only ever been an executive. You know what I mean? You've not got that connection with the players and the former players that you've played with that are. I mean, a lot of them. I mean, you look at Mike Vick's at high school. You know what I mean? Yep. So again, he'll be watching and he'll be looking at young players and he'll be able to pass that on. The one thing I would say about having Arthur Blank as an owner is the fact that every player that's ever played for them only has the greatest things to say about him. So effectively, nobody leaves Atlanta Falcons unless you're Julio Jones without having a bit of love for actually playing for the team. And if we can establish that, then that's even better for the team. That brings in the diamonds in the rough, as you said.
And that's the thing. Remind me before we come back, whether it's next Saturday or if we do get one before that. Remind me, because that's the first thing I want to do to kick off episode 51 is shout out that dude from the HBCU showcase. Remember his name and share him out so y'all can go and check him out, because wow, for a small school guy, I was really blown away. So I'll go back and get that for you for the next show as well. But just a couple of little things that we do need to kind of talk about in closing before we sort of wrap things up for the night. But we did strategy and target for the draft. So next up, it would be just a little bit of kind of around the NFL news. And as I say, we've not gotten away scot-free, so to speak, but we're rid of Kirk Cousins. So what's now happening is he's going to the Las Vegas Raiders. And basically this is what blew my mind. It's 5 years, $172 million, but with the caveat that only the first $20 million of that is guaranteed. So the way that's going to break down is that the Atlanta need to pay him 7.8. Sorry, 8.7 million. Yeah, in 2026. The 1.3 to make up that 10 is going to be covered by Vegas, who are then going to be eligible in, I think, next March to pay him a $10 million roster bonus as well. But that's out with any other guarantees that have already been said. So again, his agent is doing performing magic tricks out here. But as I say, it's good. And when you look at the situation the way it could have been, I'm glad I'm only giving the man $8 million. I think we can settle for that, don't you, Des?
No, I mean, I'm a bit pissed on this because when I seen it come out and it said it was 20 million guaranteed, I thought, beauty, that's us. We've got 10 million back. And then when you looked at it, no, we're paying him 8.7 million this year, and he's on vet minimum with guaranteed that the start of the season next year he's getting his other 10 million. So they've been flying with this, but we can't. I mean, we've literally got a quarterback that's getting paid $57 million by another team this year. So we can't really complain about having to pay 8.7 million to Kirk Cousins, even though it's sticking in your throat. You know what I mean? That you're having to pay him any more money. But it's just I seen a stat that he's now made more money in his career than Tom Brady, and that is just a man that won 6 rings and effectively fell into another one. A man that won 7 rings has made less money than a man who's won one playoff game. And
wow,
it's crazy. But as you say, I think is it Todd or Matt McCarthy or Matt McCartney or Todd McCartney or someone that's his agent. But I'll tell you that man. I'll tell you one thing. That agent is probably going to be on suicide watch the day that Kirk Cousins retires, because by God, Kirk Cousins has made this man so much money, absolutely so much money.
You've got it, and shout out to King Richie as well. We know you've been kind of lobbying for a while to get on the show, so we'll need to get you debuted nice and soon. But it's good to have you on as always, and I think I can agree. It's like, can we borrow your agent, Kirk, to help us negotiate some of your sponsorship deals for the coming season? Like, I think we'll be just fine. If you catch me rolling and something fly, then you'll know why. I've made calls and some friends in high places.
I mean, the deal's fantastic for one reason, that effectively I think is it $76 million will be guaranteed on the 5th day of the season, of the start of the season, which effectively means that he'll be in the same position as he is this year, but next year he's going to be another free agent as well, unless he balls out something phenomenal in Raiders. What I would say is how ironic it is that effectively it's came full circle that we signed Kirk Cousins and then signed Michael Penix Jr., and he's effectively going to the Raiders, who are probably going to sign Mendoza. You know what I mean? But I did see that Clint Kubiak had come out and said that he would prefer. But a couple of days before they signed Kirk Cousins, he came out and said he'd prefer that Mendoza sat for a year behind a veteran to effectively learn everything, and I think that's what they're going to do. So. I don't know who the backup QBs are for the Raiders.
Nor do I, off the top of my head.
Aidan O'Connell. So yeah, you're hoping that Kirk Cousins doesn't get injured.
Yeah, I think you kind there's a reason you brought him in, because if Mendoza isn't ready to go, then you need that depth and obviously the veteran presence as well, because as we've said before, and we can joke as much as you like, but the Arch Manning ruined this draft class. But it's not the strongest squad of quarterbacks, let's say, or they're strong in certain areas, but they're not the most pro ready. To be a bit more diplomatic, but that's not to say they can't learn. So having a veteran like Kirk in front of him, it's done some good things for Mike Penix's early career. So hopefully, it set him on the right track, and we'll see what happens come next season in Vegas.
If you want a veteran in the room, Kirk Cousins is the perfect guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, although saying that, I was surprised Tua in an interview coming out and saying that he'll develop and help Michael Penix Jr. So, you know what I mean? Again, that's I think you'll see a lot. I think a lot of people will be surprised by Tua this year, mate, because I think with everything that's happened this last couple of years, I think it's humbled him a wee bit. You know what I mean? And I think he doesn't want to be that. He doesn't want to turn into another Marcus Mariota, where you leave your first team and then effectively become a journeyman. You know what I mean? So I think he's been humbled with this, but I guarantee you, I think you're going to see a really hungry Tua next year. And again, from my point of view, I've always been pro Michael Penix Jr., but let the best man win. From my point of view,
I agree. And I feel like one of the worst situations that could occur when you're talking about Tua is, I don't want him to go the way of, if you remember Robert Griffin III's career. He was a fantastic dual threat QB, doing some really nice things in Washington, a couple of nasty hits. Next thing you know, he's in Denver, he's in Baltimore, he's in Cleveland. Then he's out the league entirely. So I don't want the same for these young guys. But as I say, may the best man win. I'm looking forward to the competition. I'm here for it. So I'm looking forward to training camp for sure.
But again, that's another thing that Tua said in his interview. He mentioned that this is probably going to be one of the better O-lines that he's been behind. You know what I mean? So effectively, it's a case of we know the concussion issues. You know what I mean? So it's all about us effectively building a scheme that's going to stop that happening. You know what I mean? So you get Alex Van Pelt. Again, he the one thing in his mind when he gets too into training camp is protect yourself. If it's third and 2 and you're going to get sacked, protect yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not always about doing it there and then. You have to step back. You know what I mean? There's always going to be another chance. It's not about killing yourself and all that kind of stuff for the sake of a game. And I think somebody has to show him how to slide as well, because there's been a few instances where you're like, oh my, it's like he dives with his head and you're like, come on to it. At some point, somebody has to have a chat with him. You know what I mean? So and I think that's going to happen. I think the fact that he's been humbled, I think his ears will be a lot wider this year than they maybe have been the last few years. But when you see him, he obviously get asked about the situation in Miami and no uncertain terms. He said it in a nice way that it was just a disaster. Last year was a complete disaster. I think coaching staff, everything. He talked about certain circumstances that happened. You know what I mean? So who are us to question that? But he's got another shot. I'm excited. I think if we can get 2023, 2024 tour, I mean, this is a playoff season for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good. I don't feel like those expectations are too lofty. I feel like it's just going to come down to can we get in his rhythm? And I do have one request: if you're going to take sliding lessons, don't take any for Trevor Lawrence, because I was watching back some of those big hits again for the last few years, and I think his ears are still ringing for that Alshire forearm. We do not want that to happen to Tua. It just takes one, and it's over. Hence the vet minimum, because I mean the risk is there, but you should know to protect yourself as well. So and you've got some big and skilled boys up in front of you to make sure you can stay vertical. And to his skill set, he's not a great improviser. He's not especially mind blowing as an athlete. He's mobile enough, but his skill set is that he's got great timing. He's a reactionary quarterback, more than an improviser. So I feel like if we give him time in the pocket to look up his targets, see what he's doing, then obviously he can be successful. And that's kind of what it's going to come down to. But yeah, as I say, I'm really excited for the battle. Roll on training camp. We've got. I know we've not even reached the draft yet, but I just want training camp to get here already.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, mate, he's a scheme quarterback, but he's if the scheme's right for him, and again he mentioned the fact that obviously he's left-handed. It's Michael Penix Jr. is left-handed as well, so again it's a benefit for the coaching staff. They don't need to swap things around. They don't need to change things. Remember last year, Michael Penix Jr. talking about how the offensive coordinator, and I can't even remember his name now. He's literally, as soon as he left, Zach Robinson.
Yeah,
was effectively, and when he first started, was holding stuff back because he wasn't sure whether it was going to be good for a left-handed quarterback. So, and Michael Penix said, just give me it. You know what I mean? So that's not going to be a problem now. You know what I mean? But
and speaking as a pass catcher as well, I mean that's going to be good for Jahan Dotson trying to get back in and prove himself. Is the fact that I think I made this point on the show before, when you're playing receiver, the flight of the ball is going to be slightly different, and the spin is going to be coming from the opposite side. So your hand position has got to be slightly different, catching from a lefty versus a righty. Now you don't have to worry about that unless we get down to third string, which hopefully doesn't happen. But as I say, the continuity is going to be a lot higher than it was last year. You're going to have two guys that are both mobile enough to run from the same scheme, so you won't have a change of offense, that grind when you bring in Kirk Cousins like you did last year, which is going to help us as well, because it means we can keep up that pace, keep pushing as well. So a lot of good things. With that being said, and as I say, I don't think there's one signing, either in a coaching or staff perspective or from these players, where you can say, nah, it doesn't make sense. So, I mean, there's not many years we could have really sat here and said that. So it's a good place to be. So with all that being said, just as I say, a couple of wee bits before we do close out, but let's kind of sum up and kind of go over in summary everything that we've said. So if we take everything that we've done and we've spoken about in the off-season process so far, free agency, all that good stuff, the coaching carousel, if you were to give us a grade for it, Des, what would it be? How do you feel?
Again, it's quite hard because effectively you don't know what's down the road. So, but I think with everything, I think coaching staff, I had a bit of an issue with the Kevin Stefanski hire, but it's grew on me. But when you actually take that out and you look at the actual backroom coaching staff, you know what I mean, Brian Callahan, Alex Van Pelt, you know what I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, that is I would say that's maybe a B+ for the coaching staff. I think for free agency and everything, it's impossible to. I guarantee you, there'll be one guy that we've signed in free agency that hardly anybody talks about, and he'll come into the team and blow us away. You just never know. What I would say is that these guys are on. There's quite a few of these guys we brought in that they're signing a 1-year contract because that's probably all they could get. So they'll be hungry, and there's not a risk on a 1-year contract. and hopefully some of the guys will step up and make a difference. So I'm always optimistic, mate. I'm always optimistic. I'd say overall, I'd say a B. So, but again, it's the same when you see a draft and you start straight away. You hear all these draft ratings and everything. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows. I mean, I think we last year, I think we got a C- from somebody.
Yeah.
You know, it was ridiculous because we'd moved up for James Pearce Jr. You know what I mean? So,
well, maybe they knew something we didn't. Maybe they knew something we didn't. who knows? But I mean, it's all the fun is kind of at this point in time. This is when it's fun doing the shows because we know about as much as the so-called experts right now. All we're all doing is just kind of guesstimating and taking our educated guesses and seeing what pans out. And you need to be used to being wrong in this line of work because you will be, in a lot of cases, wrong more often than you're right, as we've found out through the first sort of 50 episodes, and I'm sure we'll find out far more in the next 50 as well, Des.
I mean, effectively, with everything that's happening, we're on a first date, mate. That's effectively what's happening here. We're getting to know. We've just met. We're getting to know the person. You know what I mean? It's like we just don't know. We'll start to build up information. We've chatted. We've had some chats and everything. So I'm starting to know what kind of person that you are. That's effectively we are. We know as much as anybody else. You know what I mean? Yeah. Unless you're actually employed by the Atlanta Falcons. And in that sense, the exciting bit, mate, that's the bit where you have a complete clear out of the staff and you bring in new staff. It's a pain that you've literally lost 5 years. But effectively, it's you're rejuvenated and you're waiting. You just in the back of your mind, you're just hoping this is the backroom staff, this is the coaching staff that brings us the big one. You know what I mean? But at this time, we just don't know. You know what I mean? Literally, yeah. Kevin Stefanski could be a 3-time Super Bowl winning coach. We don't know. In 15, 20 years' time, we'll know, but we don't. That's the beauty of all this. You know what I mean? We just don't know.
Yeah, you get they say hindsight's a gift, but sometimes it's more fun to look forward when you don't know what's coming. But yeah, when you're talking about
Falcons fan, mate, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And when you're talking about expectations, here's what you guys can expect. So we're going to board the hype train just a little bit. So if you have enjoyed the first 50 episodes and you want to be part of the next 50, then you should know that we've got a few special shows coming up planned for you. So first off, feel free to give me a subscribe on my solo channel over there at Waddle Music, Sports and Media, because very soon I'm going to make good on a promise I made, which is I'm going to go in deep on Tua. So I'm going to present a 3-part, possibly 4-part mini-series called Tua Talk. Part 1's going to be called What Did We Get? The Warts and All. And that's going to include film breakdown, actual play-by-play, showing you some of what he can do, the good and the bad, as I say. So you can look forward to that on the solo channel. Also, there's going to be a new sort of side hustle, if you will, coming into fruition. So shout out again to one of the frequent Flyers, who you'll have seen and heard here very often, Emmanuel from Atlanta Falcons Fandemic. He's combining his powers with mine, and we're also being joined by another good brother of ours, Mad Mike, for a new Monday show, which is going to be more than just football. It's going to be going into baseball, basketball, pro wrestling, maybe some mixed martial arts. We're also going all the way back to college ball, maybe even some Georgia high school stuff. Just whatever we fancy, that's where you'll find it. Similarly to what Des and I are going to be doing with the new channel on SF Sports. It's going to just be taking our skill sets that we've put into put into place over the last season, and just kind of kicking it out into the world of sport as well. And as you say, we are going to do a little bit of a pushback towards now closer to the season. We were going to do it around about the draft, but we're looking like it's going to be better to do it just before the season. But as I say, keep your eyes peeled, keep it here and keep it Celtic, because the first ever Falcons All UK Super Show with the brothers down south from ATL Falcons UK. We're looking possibly around about July, maybe start of August for that, just as we're kind of getting into the crux of training camp and starting to prep for the season as well. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we've got coming down the pipeline. And as I say, if you want to get on the hype train early before the content starts going up, then you can search us on YouTube at the SF Sports for all the non-Falcons content as well. So I know it's been pretty quiet tonight, but if anyone does have any questions, now would be the time to drop them. And in the meantime as well, I would remind you that here at AFN International, we pride ourselves on being the voice of all the fans, Clydeside, Stateside or worldwide, as you say. So if you want to join us, we would very much like to have you with us to earn your kilt. All you need to do is contact myself or Des or Maggie on the socials. Let us know, because I know Maggie's doing a lot of AFN recruitment as well. And this is just one more string to that bow, so to speak. So we are one big, crazy, dysfunctional family. So if you want some guest slots and you got the time, then we've got the space. So you know what to do. But just one more thing before we do close out, and that's to, as I say, keep your eyes peeled this coming week, because we may do a little teaser show as well, just for the MWM show as well. But in closing, I'll let Des kind of do the same as well, but I'm going to be a little bit self-indulgent and tell you again how much I love doing these, how much a thrill it's been to kind of, obviously it's not always been the easiest, internet playing silly buggers and all the rest of it, but you keep your head down and you keep on grinding. And as I say, it means so much to have my friends and family all around the world here to support me. And Des, shout out to you as always, mate, because there's no show without you. So thank you for 50 episodes, and looking forward to the next 50, man. Bring them on.
Absolutely. And we also have to obviously wish everybody a happy Easter when it comes tomorrow.
Yeah, of course. Have a wonderful Easter weekend, everybody. However you spend it. Like if you are one of those families that do the presents outside the eggs, then I hope you get something nice. Or if you're not into presents, then I just hope you eat your body weight in chocolate, which is usually how I like to spend my Easter personally.
Absolutely. And if you're religious and it's important to you tomorrow, then hopefully you have a great day tomorrow as well. So I think obviously we're in a Christian country, and I think sometimes it gets forgotten how important sometimes these times are. You know what I mean? So have a great day tomorrow. I'm assuming it's a holiday over there on Monday. I don't know. I know it's a holiday here as well. I don't know whether the Americans actually do the Easter eggs. Did the Americans do the Easter eggs?
I think so. You can fill me in on the chat on that one, or if you're late in catching us, please let us know. But yeah, it may just be a Scottish or a British thing.
Yeah.
I hadn't even really thought about it, but now that you mention it, so please, and that's our Q&A to you. So for next time, I need to remember to bring that lad for the HBCU, but you all need to remember and let me know about these bloody Easter eggs. But as we say, just thank you all so much for your love, your support, all the kind words. As I say, shout out to the Frequent Flyers family as well, because there's a lot coming in season 2 that y'all don't even know about yet. we've shared enough for now, but
need to get the Braves
sorry.
show going. Need to get the Braves show going, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
6-2. This is going to be the World Series year, mate. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my bones.
That's it, man. You know what? Super Bowl year, World Series year, and an NBA championship. Let's go for the trifecta. I would not mind that one bit, to be honest.
And the World Cup as well. You know what I mean? So just literally battering in all the history. That would be great.
That's it. And I mean, you want to talk about misery, being an Atlanta Falcons fan, try repping the Scotland national team sometime and you'll get to know well what misery is. As I say, you want pain, that's pain.
Yeah.
But as I say, that's something that we'll be getting into just going forward as well on the SF Sports channel. We'll be looking forward to covering the World Cup because no Scotland, no party. So we'll be sure to don some tartan for that one. But until next time, remember that Des and I, we love our ATL, and we would wish you a good night and a fantastic Easter weekend. And Des, my brother, why don't you take us home?
Yeah, so as we always say, hopefully this will be the last year that we actually do this and we actually have a successful year. But pain is international, but so is passion. Good night,
Hell
guys.
yeah.
Have a great Easter.
Good night, guys. Much love. Bye-bye.